Most entrepreneurs that I talk to on a daily basis want to start a business in order to get rich. Because I think at this point, most people have understood that working a normal 9-to-5 job, constantly living below your means and only investing a couple $100 into a broad index fund a month is not gonna cut it. But if becoming a business owner or starting your own business or becoming an entrepreneur or however you want to call it is the answer, why are not more people doing it? Why are not more people starting a business, start working for themselves and stop selling their time to their bosses?
Why are you running? Why are you running?
And after I have talked to hundreds of entrepreneurs, so people that want to start a business but haven't done so yet, I know that the question to that answer is very simple. And no, it's not about a lack of business ideas, a lack of funding, or a lack of specific business knowledge. The answer is much more simple and also somewhat primal, because it's all about fear.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Most entrepreneurs are scared to found a business. And yes, you might now be thinking, I'm not scared to found a business, I just don't have the time or the money or the energy or whatever other excuse you're coming up with. But there's one thing that we have to understand about fear, and that is that it's so easily disguised as something else. Because you should really ask yourself, is it really a fact that you don't have any money set aside to start some meta ads, or is it deep down this fear of putting yourself out there? Or is it really a fact that you don't have any time to start a business, or is it more so that your fear of getting started and maybe the fear of you realizing of whatever you're doing is not working out and you then maybe having a little bit of an identity crisis? Bottom line is that the thing that most entrepreneurs fear most is failure. And not some kind of failure, but the kind of public failure. So losing your investors' money, letting go of employees, and people watching you fail in public.
Nice.
So in today's video, I want to tell you what happened when I walked through exactly that. Because I have failed my first business and I had to witness how we went from 7 figures to 0 in just a couple months, which is pretty much the worst case scenario and probably the one thing that most entrepreneurs are most scared of. We had to lay off people, we had to let go of employees, we had disappointed investors, and we faced public scrutiny.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
But this video is not at all about how shitty it was to close down that company or how scary that overall situation was. Actually, it's about quite the opposite, because I want to tell you about how that worst case scenario was not as bad as you think it is, but only if you follow a couple of rules. So if it's fear that is holding you back from starting your own first business, watch this video, because I will go through 5 rules that if you follow them, then no matter what happens, even the worst case scenario of bankruptcy will not break you. Knowing what I know now after having gone through the worst case scenario that every entrepreneur is scared of made me lose all my fear of starting a business, and I know that it will do the same for you. So let's dive straight into the first rule. The first rule that you have to follow as an entrepreneur is to keep a clean table. Because, for example, closing down a company, especially when there are investors, employees, and co-founders involved, is obviously not a fun thing. It's usually an unpleasant storm of disappointment, lost money, and crushed dreams. So in order to move on, the only thing that you really have to do is to close any loose ends in an honest and upright way. Because you reveal your true character at the worst times. And therefore, embracing that it's only over until it's over is absolutely crucial.
That was easy.
The thing that I learned is that keeping transparent conversations with everyone involved and relentlessly pushing through that liquidation and closing down shop in a clean way really closed that chapter for good. So if you always follow this one rule and you always as a founder keep a clean table and you keep transparent conversations with everyone involved and you show up when times are tough, no one can or will be mad about it. Not your investors, not your customers, and not even your employees. The second thing that you have to do is to reframe failure into progress, because no industry is as forgiving about failure as the startup world. Because in the startup world, everyone is expecting you to fail. And if you don't, you're kind of an outlier. So you can use that to your advantage. On top of that, having dared to start, having dared to take that leap, and having scaled into uncertainty is certainly unique. And so are your insights. And for me, it was only until after I started talking to hundreds of entrepreneurs and I started coaching and mentoring aspiring business owners that I realized how much I actually learned scaling my own business for 3 years. Because in those 3 years, scaling my first business, I have learned so much more than any study program, college, or university has taught me in the 5 years prior to that. So if you are in the first row of building and scaling a business, even if it fails, will teach you so many things that others will never know about. And you can use those unique insights totally to your advantage. And the great thing about the startup world is that even if you have nothing to show for, if your startup was a complete failure, nothing came out of it, just the mere fact that you dared to start says so much more about you than accepting any 9-to-5 job ever will.
How? Hold on, bro. out.
So the third rule that you should follow if you are scared to found a business is to not fall into a hole when it collapses. And for me, when I was running my 7-figure e-commerce company, it's of course a lot of stress. There's a lot of things going on. You have long working hours, intense workloads, high cognitive load, and high stress levels. So when it collapses, so does your life, so it's easy to fall into a hole. In this moment, in order to not fall into a hole of sorrow and self-pity, it is absolutely crucial to find an outlet to keep your momentum going. For me back then, it was establishing an intense morning routine, learning a lot about self-improvement, and focusing on setting up new healthy habits. So as long as you find one thing that just keeps you busy and keeps challenging you, you will be fine. At least I was.
Okay.
So the fourth and final rule that really helped me to move on was that I didn't immediately jump into the next startup project. Entrepreneurs are restless, impatient, motivated, and ambitious. Trust me, I get that part. But jumping straight into the next startup can really backfire. One thing that is really important to understand is that there is no shame in taking a step back temporarily. And for me, taking it easy was the right thing to do because closing down a company is exhausting and taking a step back just felt right in that moment. What I took away from this is that life happens in phases. Sometimes there are times to push and sometimes there are times to rest. And over time, I felt like that my energy was coming back and then reaching a new level of motivation to really start over.
Ah, shit. Here you go again.
So here's where we land. If you're scared of public failure, of disappointing people, or watching something that you built going to zero, then of course that fear is real and I'm not gonna tell you that it isn't. But what I'm gonna tell you is that even the worst case scenario, bankruptcy and closing down shop, disappointing people has a path through it. And there's nothing really to be scared of if you follow those 4 rules that we mentioned in this video. As long as you end things in a clear way, you treat the failure as data, you keep your momentum going, and then you rest to go again, you will be fine. The one thing that I want to leave you with at the end of this video is to just simply start. Start scared if you have to, but the playbook exists to even power through the worst scenario possible. And remember that this video was only about the worst possible scenario that can happen in any entrepreneurial life, and even that has a playbook to power through and it will not ruin your life, as long as you follow the 4 rules. Thanks for watching the video, subscribe to my channel for weekly videos, and see you in the next one.